Hello, everyone, and welcome to Book Break. Greetings from Western New York, where it has been cold and snowy. And my fellow librarian, Molly, and I have been doing a lot of reading. So,
Always.
yes, we're going to give you a roundup of what we've been reading lately, including a few romance novels for Valentine's Day. I was not really motivated with, I tried to read more romance and I just kept abandoning them, but I did finish this one, so that I'm going to talk about first.
Okay. Yeah, go ahead. Yeah, I tried to read. I read a new one this weekend, too, that it was okay. So
Yeah.
I went to one that I read further back, but
Okay.
go for it.
My first one was called 4 Weekends and a Funeral by Ellie Palmer, and it published in August of 2024, kind of paying homage, I guess, to 4 Weddings and a Funeral, and also she said While You Were Sleeping, neither one of which I've watched.
You have to watch 4 Weddings and a Funeral with Hugh Grant
I
and
know.
Andie MacDowell. I'm not like a big rom-com person, but
Yeah.
you should watch that.
Okay.
You should watch
I'm going to make
one.
that my mission this weekend.
The other one,
Yeah. So this one was a debut novel, kind of a grumpy sunshine romance trope. The main characters had some unusual circumstances. It was more of a slow burn romance and very little steam. So if you're into spice and steam, this ain't the book for you.
Okay.
But our main character is Allison Mullally, and she is 30 years old, and she is a post-double mastectomy BRCA1 carrier.
Okay.
So this has really been affecting her. Her mother had breast cancer, so she had 2 daughters. Both daughters were tested, and Allie was the one that drew the short straw with the gene. So she decided to be proactive, and now her life is... She's kind of trying to go in a different direction. For some reason, she's grappling with the guilt of knowing and taking her action, and having the mastectomy. She thinks that in order to be worthwhile living, she has to be like a survivalist, climbing mountains, doing all these, exciting
Defying
things.
the odds.
Right.
Of
But that's
cancer.
not really who she is. This is a girl that likes playing trivia with her friends in bars. They're very into it. She likes model trains, kind of a train nerd.
Okay.
She's
That's a new one. I haven't
Yeah,
seen that one in
yeah.
a romance book before.
she works in like public transportation, and I believe they're in Minneapolis. But her dad and she used to put up the Christmas tree trains, and so she's into public transport and all that kind of stuff. But she knows that's really nerdy, so she kind of like dampers that and pushes it to the side. Well, anyway, she had this boyfriend that was like a poster Instagrammer, adventure, hiking, sort of gorgeous guy who dies in a car accident. And right before he died in a car accident, he had broken up with her. But his family did not know this. So she goes to the funeral, and her parents, like her mom, his mom loved her, thinking that she was a great stabilizing kind of influence on her son. So she decides she's going to go along with the ruse that she's still the girlfriend, and she ends up, he had an apartment, and his best friend is going to help clear out the apartment, and the mom and all has said, oh, no, his girlfriend Allie should be involved with this. So, of course, they end up doing it together. And, of course, Adam, the best friend, who is grumpy, he's a carpenter. Why are they always like, you know what I mean? I'm surprised he
Manly
wasn't
men.
a Christmas tree farmer, But anyway.
I did read a Christmas romance with the Christmas tree farm this year.
So they're forced to do this together. They're doing it on 4 weekends, trying to get this cleaned out. And it does start to bring up things like
Yeah.
a lot of which is how she thought she needed to be this kind of different person for him. And naturally they fall in love. How could they not? And she finds out he's actually a pretty great guy.
Naturally.
And it was very authentic in the portrayal of her guilt in the gene. The author, actually, I read, had this same BRCA gene. So you get that that's pretty authentic, that kind of viewpoint. And you really don't read about something like that very often, especially in a
No,
romance.
I don't think I've.
But I kind of like the trivia competitions and, the competitiveness there. So it had some good chemistry and tension and some different life lessons. I really liked that Allison wasn't the typical girl, like the super girly girl. She liked doing the train thing with her dad. And I thought it was pretty well plotted. I did not understand, though, how the dead boyfriend, Sam's parents were just willing to say, okay, you guys clean out this apartment, we're out. I would think if one of my children had passed away,
Yeah.
I would never be like just absolving myself
Right.
of
Take
all of
what
that.
you want.
Yeah.
Give the rest to the Goodwill.
So I thought that was a little odd. But other than that, it was a pretty good romance. Pretty
Yeah,
good for a
sounds pretty
debut.
solid.
Yeah.
Yeah. Romance is also not my preferred genre, but sometime last year, someone recommended a book on Monday Night Book Chat, a romance called You with a View by Jessica Joyce, which I think was published in 2023, and it was her debut book.
That one had a great cover, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, kind of like a canyon.
Picture, like taking a selfie or whatever of a
Yes.
guy in a canyon.
Yes. So our main character is Noelle Shepherd. She's a 28-year-old woman who's kind of floundering at the moment. She lost her job. She had to move back into her parents' house, so now she's stuck in her childhood bedroom. She feels like she peaked in high school. She was nominated, most likely to succeed. She won the girl category in that. But really, since then, she's had a hard time. Her passion is photography, and she tried to pursue a career in that. It didn't go well. To make things worse, her best friend was her grandmother, Graham, who died 6 months before the book starts. So she's back home with the parents. She's lost her friend and confidant, Grandma, and so she's just having a hard time. So she was actually going through her grandmother's photos, letters, that type of thing after she passed. And she's surprised to find these photos of young Graham with a mysterious man.
That wasn't Grandpa?
That wasn't Grandpa.
Uh-oh.
And as far as her father and Noelle knew, Grandpa was it. They were the one. They had a great marriage that lasted decades. And on the photos, they're dated a few years before her and Graham and the grandfather had gotten married. It says the guy's name is Paul. So one day she puts the photos together into a TikTok video, gives a little bit of the backstory, and says, does anyone recognize this mysterious man, Paul, from 50-some years ago? Goes to bed, wakes up. Of course, the video went viral, and one of the comments says, that's my grandfather.
Oh, wow.
So she starts texting with this person that commented, and within a few weeks, she goes to meet Paul, who is, I think, in his 80s and still alive. Of course, they live in the same area. I think it's the Bay Area in California. And so they arrange for Noelle, Paul, and the grandson to all meet. And surprise, the grandson that she's been chatting with for a week is none other than her high school arch nemesis, Theo Spencer.
Oh, no.
So Theo and Noelle spent their high school years as rivals, who's going to be valedictorian, and they were on the tennis team, and basically they drove each other nuts and just constantly bugged and needled each other. Noelle won most likely to succeed for the girls. Theo won most likely to succeed for the boys. And unlike her, he's lived up to that. And of course, is
the
very,
shame.
yes, very successful. He formed some sort of travel app, and it was named by Fortune magazine as, one to watch under the age of 30.
Okay.
So
They got to fall in love, right?
Well, I don't know, maybe. Paul and they start going through Paul's photos and things. I forgot to mention, they did find a letter. She found a letter saying from Paul to her grandmother saying, I understand why we can't elope, but I will love you forever. So when she meets up with Paul, they go through more photos that he has, and they find a map. It's an old map of the Western United States labeled Our Honeymoon.
Oh my
so
gosh.
Graham had planned out a honeymoon going to the Grand Canyon, Yosemite, all sorts of places. And since Noelle is dealing with her grief and doesn't have a job, she decides she wants to recreate Graham's honeymoon trip.
And since he does a travel app, he can jump along for the ride to promote his app.
Well,
Do I have it right?
Theo wasn't thrilled to go along, but Paul wants to go.
Okay.
And Paul manages to convince Theo to come along. Theo
Okay.
doesn't want to go because Noelle drives him nuts, and also he's very busy with work. So this is really where the story starts, and I have a short quiz for you to see how well you know romances. So they're
Okay,
going
okay.
on this road trip. Number 1, is Theo James devastatingly handsome? Yes or no?
I would guess yes, Molly.
Yes. Okay. Do you think the author mentions the color of Theo's blue eyes just once in passing? Yes or no?
No, but I'm surprised they're not a vivid green.
No, they were blue.
Wow.
The author cracks open a thesaurus and treats us to every possible variation of the word blue, including comparing the color of his eyes to moonlight touching the ocean. Do you think this is true? Yes or no? Do we get a lot of versions of the word blue?
Oh, okay, yeah, probably.
Yes.
Yes.
Do you think Theo has a dimple when he smiles? Or no dimple?
I would say Theo is a dimple guy.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, he is. Okay, you're doing well. Do you think there will be numerous opportunities during the road trip for Noelle to be in her bikini and for Theo to be shirtless with water dripping off his tanned, broad, and lightly freckled back? Yes or no?
I would say yes.
Yes. Will they spend multiple pages of the book trying to sneak glances at each other in their respective swimwear?
Yes.
Yes. Okay, last question. And most importantly, will their carefully planned trip reservations get messed up so that they will have to, at
Share
one point,
a room.
share a bed?
Okay, yes.
Yes.
Yes, definitely yes.
Okay, congratulations.
I have
You are
passed the
certified
romance
in
quiz.
romance genre. So, all kidding aside, I did like this book. I think it was elevated over other romances because of there was a really sweet aspect between, the
grandparents,
grandfather
yeah.
and the grandmother. And as the story goes along and their road trip, I'm glad I've amused Sean. As they go on their road trip, you learn more and more about what happened to the relationship and why it fell apart.
Okay.
And the author did just come out with a second book last year, which I read this weekend, called The X-Vows, which was pretty solid, but I really like the You with a View more. But if you like You with a View, I would check out The X-Vows. And this one does have spice. So you said yours was...
Yeah, mine was pretty non-spicy.
Yeah, this one was spicy.
I sit over here on the other side of this computer, and I listen to a lot of romance novels being described.
Yeah.
Observation number 1 is that very few of them are written by males.
Yeah,
So we
correct.
rarely get the male perspective in their projected archetypical female form. Do you think that most of the guys described in these books are a projection of what the author finds desirable?
I would...
Or do you think it's just a canned sort of...
I think some of it is canned, but I'm a little weird. So
yeah.
like somebody like Theo Spencer, I might glance at on the street, but in real life, it'd be like,
Third and final observation.
I'd be looking for the model train guy instead,
Theo
Yes.
is a sexy name.
Yeah. Theo Spencer.
Theodore is not a sexy name. True or false?
True. Yeah, true.
It's funny.
And the reason the character Noelle doesn't know who she's talking to is because Paul, the grandfather, refers to him as Teddy. So she didn't make that connection that Teddy was the same guy as
Do you get a
Theo.
date if your name's Teddy?
I don't see why not. It all depends on the personality, Sean. Okay.
Yeah.
That's the real take home right there.
Okay.
Right.
I'm glad we talked.
Okay. Yeah. Any other questions?
Thank you for jumping in, Sean.
Any other
With the
questions?
male point of view.
You know where we are.
That's funny to me.
All right, I'm going to take a turn into family sagas because this is where I like to live. And I talked about this one on the preview, and I got to read it, and I'm happy to say I liked it as much as I thought I would. It is Good Dirt by Charmaine Wilkerson, and it published January 28th. So this one starts out, you have 10-year-old Abby Freeman, and she just wanted to play hide and seek one time with her brother, even though they were in a hurry to go out. Her brother is an older brother, and he always kind of lets her have her way. But from her hiding spot, she overhears a man break into the house, threaten her brother, and then a gunshot. Mm-hmm. So Abby remains still for a while before rushing to her father's study, where she finds her family's ancient heirloom stoneware jug broken, and her brother has been shot, and she was not able to save him or summon help.
Right.
So she's been feeling guilty for this her entire adult life. Move forward 2 decades later, Abby is dressed up as her wedding day, and Abby is from a very affluent black family. She has a fiance who is a white fiance from a very affluent family in the area. I believe they live in Connecticut. And his name is Henry. And Henry is a no-show at the wedding.
Oh.
So this poor girl
Oh, geez.
has been thrust back into the spotlight because, of course, everyone remembers the family tragedy where her brother was killed, and now she has the bad luck of her fiancé standing her up without an
at the
explanation, jilted at the altar. So each member of their family, it's just the mom and dad, they kind of cope with their grief in a different way. Her mother is very overly protective of Abby. Her father grows more silent and starts taking more business trips and spending hours in the basement researching things. And Abby, meanwhile, puts tremendous pressure on herself to keep up academically, have a good job. But after her fiance's, this humiliation, she decides to kind of escape, and she accepts an offer of a friend to kind of rent her, be a manager, like an Airbnb manager of her place in France. So she
nice.
really just wants to get away. However,
Oh, no.
while she's in France, 9 months after her breakup,
Oh, gosh.
guess who shows up to rent this chateau? Henry and his new attorney girlfriend, Avery. I hate these people already.
Avery. Avery and Henry.
Yeah, so-
going to France.
Of course, there's an unexpected confrontation. Abby is forced to reckon with her unresolved guilt and other issues, and she listens to Henry's reasons for their breakup. And luckily for her, she does meet another man, and it turns out to be a good thing for her. So this tragedy kind of compels her to team up with an unlikely ally in Henry. So she decides to start researching her family's ancestors' stories and learning about this stoneware jug that was such an integral part of her family. So while you have this very modern story going on, you have flashbacks into the past of her different generations of her family. So it started with Edward Willis Freeman, who was her great-great-grandfather, and he escaped slavery by stowing away on a ship from South Carolina to Massachusetts. So then there's other members of the family that you begin to meet and know. So you kind of have to read this book and stay focused.
So do you get like, is it told from the viewpoint of the
Yeah, you actually-
slave ancestor?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, interspersed. So there's
Yeah,
like
I like
modern
it- I like it when
chapters
they do
and then
that.
different points of view with the historic people. So they highlight their sacrifices with the jar's role in aiding others in escaping slavery. And that was kind of cool, how people could put messages in the jar and they would get through almost like a underground railroad type of network. So it's a lot of past and present intertwining with multiple perspectives. And it does end on a hopeful note. And she ends up having a big moment because she gets like a museum curation or whatever for this.
Oh, okay.
But and finds out about other pieces that people have had in their family, like pottery or different things. So it explores a lot about grief, about mental health, ancestry, some racism and, different neighborhoods and where people live. But it was very good. The author wrote Black Cake,
Yeah,
if you
I
read
read
that
that.
one.
Yeah, that was a good one.
Yeah, I really liked that one too. So if you like historical fiction and kind of an inspirational book, I'd say this would be a good book for you. Probably would make a great book club pick. The only thing
and
that
I think Black Cake was too. I think a lot
yes,
of book clubs
yeah.
did
The
that.
only thing about this one is they didn't really focus a lot on the crime. Like if I had been those parents, I would have been like, "Who killed my son? Why?" And you do
don't
kind of
really
find
fi-
out, but
okay.
that wasn't the point of the book. But
It wasn't
I guess
like a
that was the
mystery.
direction
Yeah.
the author, like instead of making it a mystery, she made it more of a family saga.
No,
But,
that sounds
yeah,
good.
So.
Okay. My next one is a family drama, too, more of a literary fiction. It was published this month. It's called I'll Come to You by Rebecca Kaufman. And the cover is what first caught my attention. It kind of has this creepy old looking painting of a cat and a bird on it. It's a little unusual. I think this is the 10th book by this author. I have never read anything by her before. If you like more of a quiet kind of slice of life book, this would be the one. It's not like the last book, You with a View, where everyone was beautiful and
Right.
successful. This one felt like real people, people that you might know. And I really enjoyed it. It's not that long. It's just over a few hundred pages, but it's set in 1995 over the course of 1 year. So each chapter, it's January, February, and it goes on, and it follows a family. And it's almost like vignettes of different family members' lives. So it hops from viewpoint to viewpoint. In this family, I think they're somewhere in the Midwest. And the first chapter, we meet Ellen, who is an older woman. She's newly divorced. Her husband walked out on her after about 40 years of marriage, and Ellen isn't quite sure why. She never got a good explanation for it. But on this first chapter, we see her going on a kind of darkly funny, very awkward first date.
Oh no.
Yes, and it was not a Theo Spencer type date. Let's just say that. And Ellen's big thing in life is family. She's been desperately wanting grandchildren, and it seems like that's about to happen. We meet Ellen's son, Paul, and his wife, Corinne, I think in the next chapter, and they have been dealing with infertility for years, and seems like they're finally pregnant and everything is going okay. So you learn about them. You learn about Corinne's parents, who are Bruce and Janet, and they have kind of this looming health crisis coming that they are reluctant to tell their grown children about. One reason being that Corinne is now pregnant and they don't want to upset her.
Right.
Then we have Rob, who is Corinne's brother, who also just got divorced. He is about 40 years old, chronic liar. One of the reasons his marriage ended, and he is desperately trying to be a good dad to his 2 young children. So probably just saying all these names and telling you about the characters makes you a little confused, like how many people are in this family. And that is a little bit what you feel as a reader at first, like because you're not getting the whole story. She's jumping around to different perspectives. But once you kind of get those characters straight, I became invested in them. Like one of the reasons being they did feel very real. Like Ellen, she, like the moment of pride for her in the book is she's a school bus driver and she just finished 35 years as a school bus driver. So she's so excited that the school includes her in this awards ceremony. She gets a plaque and a $35 gift card to Kmart for her years of service.
This sounds super real.
Yes.
Yeah.
And she's happy because they had a couple pans of full lasagna from the awards dinner, and they're like, Ellen, take these. And then she takes these and puts them in her freezer. So it's a very, if you're looking for like thrills and twists, this is not your book. But the writing was really good. I liked how all the stories intersected. And again, these people felt real. And it kind of got some dark humor to it.
Oh, that's always welcome for me.
Yeah. So I really enjoyed this one. My main gripe was when I went to log it on Goodreads, they listed it as historical fiction because it took place in 1995. So
That's not fair.
That didn't make me feel good about myself. But other than that, I thought it was,
Jeez.
yeah. I'm like, really? Really? And then
I know, like Nirvana is classic rock now.
I know.
yeah.
They like that.
Yeah.
You know, I did that. I was putting it in. Well, my daughter, who's 23, was sitting there, and she's like, well, yeah, I was nowhere near even being born. And I make almost as much money as you. So, like, that's how much time has passed, Mom. It's historical fiction.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Who decides?
I don't know.
All right. My last one, I'm going on another tangent. It's more historical. It's called The Instrumentalist by Harriet Constable. And this came out, I believe, like last summer, August of 2024. It's kind of an under-the-radar book, and some of the reviews on Goodreads and everything kind of were polarizing
Yeah.
with what people thought about this book. So I am actually not, I'm almost finished with it now. I really like historical fiction, and I especially like historical fiction based on real people. That makes me do research. So this one is based on the life of Anna Maria della Pietà, an orphan, and she is growing up in the, think of this in Italian, the hospital of Della Pietà in Venice, after being abandoned there as a baby. So they have this orphanage that women who have children out of wedlock, if the baby is small enough and can fit through this compartment in the door, they will take care of them.
What if the baby isn't small enough?
You're out of luck. You're out of luck.
You waited too long?
You
or
waited
you were
too
just
long.
a big baby?
Right.
Okay.
So she was abandoned here as a baby at the very end of the 17th century. And by the early 18th century, both she and her fellow orphans were being tutored in music by Antonio Vivaldi,
That's wild.
who became master of the violin of the Ospedale in 1703.
Get to Italian.
So Vivaldi composed most of his major works while he was working at this, it's not a convent, but, hospital for orphans. And they also, if the girls showed promise, they had an orchestra. which is totally mind-blowing. You know, you have these
So
girls.
this is true.
This is true.
Yeah.
This part is true. So he wrote the four. What is it? The
Four Seasons.
Yes, the Four Seasons, and some of his biggest, most successful compositions while he was working here. So, and Anna Maria was a real person. She went on to have a long and successful career in her own right, being named the Maestra at just the age of 24, and she performed throughout her life until her death in 1782 when she was in her 80s. So that's the basis of this book. But what they do is Harriet Constable creates a character in Anna Maria that is very, I will say the words feminist forward. Like she is so craving success and everything. And that's what people had trouble with. They either really got into the story or they were like, that story is too feminist. There's no way an orphan of that age and a female would have been, craving success that much and so forth. Plus, she kind of slanders Vivaldi a little, more than a little bit. So Anna Maria can see color when she hears music. What is that called?
Synesthesia.
Yes.
Yeah.
So she has this very unusual connection that makes music come alive for her. And as a result, she not only can play beautiful music, she interprets, and in this book, she composes. And that's the thing about this book, is that she is very much instrumental in helping Vivaldi compose this, where is a historical fact. Did she?
Hard to tell.
Hard, we don't know, but there's certainly nothing attributed to her.
But also, I think that was fairly common for.
True. Like, I've read a lot of other historical fiction, like Einstein's wife,
Right.
who was also a mathematician. Did
who
she
got the
help with that
credit?
theory of relativity? So you really don't know. So I'm enjoying the book. She is kind of an unlikable character because literally she will do anything pretty much to succeed. Not like in the fact that she would sleep with somebody or whatever, but she is just so driven. It's not a typical female portrayal.
Especially in the 1700s.
Correct.
Yeah.
But I, for me, I bought into it because of the way she sees and interprets and feels music. It makes her feel alive. There is nothing to her like playing and being the best at music.
And also, it sounds like she was one of these orphans.
She was, and they had.
She didn't grow up in a family that was very traditional and telling her that she couldn't do these things.
Right.
She had an unusual background, so therefore I think it would be more likely that she might think differently than the other women of her time.
I'm reading a little bit here, and it says that she never left the conservatory.
No.
She always stayed there.
Right. And even when he does get her own violin, they had, instruments there for the girls to use, but she showed so much promise. He actually bought her a violin and had it, they kind of make them for you.
Oh, they're all
like
bespoke at that time.
size.
Yeah.
There were no
So-
major retailers.
And that
as
was
far
the
as I know.
first time she had ever left that
Yeah.
place, was to go and get fitted and choose the woods and everything for her violin. So yeah, it's very interesting. I kind of like it. I hope they don't get to the point where they make Vivaldi look too bad. And unfortunately, he died a pauper. I think he took an appointment, because I've been reading up on him now,
Yeah.
took an appointment to, I don't know whether it was the King of Austria, but that guy died right after he got there, so he didn't really get the credit or do whatever. He was also sick. It sounded like in this book he had severe asthma or something else. So,
Yeah. Doesn't say how he died.
yeah. But really interesting. So,
No, it sounds good.
Yeah, it
I
sounds
like
great.
historical fiction too. So,
yeah.
and I always love to research things. It's a librarian thing, I think.
Oh, definitely. Yeah.
Okay, so the last book I read, one of my goals was to read some more nonfiction this year. So I decided to start off with something that wasn't too long, that wasn't too heavy, that didn't make me feel overly dumb and wonder what I had learned in school. So I chose a memoir called Cabin, Off the Grid Adventures with a Clueless Craftsman by Patrick Hutchison. And this was published in December, and it was based off of Outdoors magazine article that he wrote that became popular, and so he kind of fleshed it out into a full-length book. But basically, it starts out in 2013, and he's in his 20s. He has dreams of becoming like a freelance journalist and traveling all over the world, and he does do some of that, but his main gig is 9-to-5 job in Seattle as a copywriter. And all his colleagues and peers, they're starting to hit those milestones where they're marrying, having kids, buying some property. And although he realizes he doesn't really want, the white picket fence and the 2.3 kids, he's not into that. He feels like something is missing. So he's looking through Craigslist, kind of poking around there, and he sees an ad for this cabin in the Cascade Mountains, and it's $7,500. So he's intrigued. He calls up the owner, says, "I want to see it." Guy says, "Yeah, sure, I'll give you directions. The key's over the door." So he goes to check it out, and it really is just this ramshackle little 120 square foot, 4 walls, sloping floors, no electricity, no plumbing, no water. There's a outhouse that's about to fall down, no cell service, no Wi-Fi. There's just a lot of spiders, mouse poop, things to fix. And he says,
I'm in.
Yes. He says, like a new parent with a hideous baby, my eyes glazed over the flaws. He thought I was perfect. So he scrapes up the money. He's not a wealthy guy, and he buys it. And so what follows is 6 years of him fixing up this cabin on weekends. He has no construction experience. He learns all of it off of YouTube videos. He says he spent hours on company time because he kept his job.
Okay.
And that's one of the things I liked about this book was so often you read these type of things where they change their lives, they quit their jobs. No, he kept the job with the health insurance and his, crummy apartment in the city, and he does this on the weekends. He spent a lot of company time looking up YouTube videos, what tools should he buy? He didn't have any tools, how to put things together. And for 6 years, this is what he did. And it's really kind of a friendship story, too. Like, from the very beginning, he had all these friends that came up to help him who also didn't know what the heck they were doing. But like, oh, you're going to give me some beer? We're going to the mountains? Okay, sure. We'll try to put this 50-year-old wood stove up and fix your leaky roof. It was kind of how he wanted to change his life and do something kind of solid with his hands instead of being in the office. I thought this was a good book. He's a good writer. It was funny. He kind of has self-deprecating humor. Occasionally, and I think this was just me, I thought he went on a little with too many details about, what drill and how they fit the pipe together for the wood stove. But I am not a handy person. Like, I couldn't tell you what a Phillips screwdriver is. Is it the flat one or is it the one with the little cross? I don't know.
I think it's the one with the little cross.
The
but
little
I'm not
cross,
100%
right.
sure.
Like, I know righty-tighty, lefty-loosey, like that's it. So I thought sometimes it went on a little too long about that, but I liked it. It was good. It was fun. And there was some nice before and after photos of the actual cabin.
That's
and
cool.
I won't tell you how it all ends up, but it was.
It's good to hear they have pictures.
Yes, to
Yeah.
kind of see like, it didn't look so good.
Right.
And I don't know that much about that area of the country, and so kind of learned about that, and there were mudslides and the winters and
Wow.
that type of thing.
All right. Well, I think we have some good books for people to hopefully stay warm this winter. We hope that you stay warm, keep reading. If you've got suggestions or themes for future programs, let us know. And you can always email, comment on our Facebook or YouTube. But thanks for being with us today, and we will see you next time.
Thanks.
Book Break is a production of the Greece Public Library, made possible through the support of the Friends of the Greece Public Library. Theme music composed and performed by Sean Greif.